Esther, a beautiful and hardworking salon owner, shares a deep love with Collins, her handsome boyfriend. She supports his dreams, giving him everything from luxury gifts to a business startup, believing they'll build a future together. But when Collins leaves to chase wealth abroad, their bond is tested. Years later, he returns rich and distant, ready to marry another. Hurt but strong, Esther faces betrayal with a bold plan that will change their lives forever. This is a story of love, betrayal, and the power of a woman determined to rise. Sit back, relax, and find out what happened in this wonderful story. Esther was the kind of woman who could walk into a room and silence it with grace. Her beauty wasn't just in her smooth caramel skin, her full lips, or her tall, regal figure. It was in her heart, her kindness, and the way she made others feel seen. She owned the biggest salon in town, Esther Glow, nestled on the corner of a busy street where rich women parked their sleek cars and lined up just to have her touch their hair. With over 20 staff under her payroll and clients ranging from socialites to celebrities, Esther had built a little empire with her hands, scissors, and her charm. Despite her wealth and success, she remained grounded. Her workers adored her, and even street hawkers knew her name. But if there was one thing Esther was even more known for, it was her love for Collins. Collins was every bit the eye candy, tall, muscular, with a voice that could melt butter. He wasn't as successful as Esther, but he had dreams, and that's what Esther fell for. She believed in him when no one else did. While other women chased rich men, Esther pampered hers like royalty. She bought him designer clothes, a new iPhone, gold accessories, and took him on vacation trips. People whispered behind her back, some called her foolish, others envied her. But Esther didn't care. Collins was her man. She loved him purely. The kind of love that looked foolish from the outside but felt like fire from within. She even rented him a luxurious apartment and gave him enough capital to start his own fashion brand. The more she gave, the happier she was. She believed love meant sacrifice, and she was willing to give it all. Little did she know, sacrifices sometimes open doors for heartbreaks. One quiet evening, just after they had dinner together in Esther's living room, Collins sat with a serious expression she rarely saw. The air felt heavy, and Esther's smile slowly faded as she sensed something important was coming. He held her hand gently, his thumb brushing her skin, and looked into her eyes like a man torn between truth and need. "Esther," he began slowly, "I've been thinking about something. I need your help again. But this time, it's different." She leaned forward, concerned. "What is it, baby? You know I'm here for you." Collins hesitated. "I want to travel. Out of the country. I've been talking to a friend who's doing well abroad. He said I could come and hustle there. I believe I can make it too. I just need your support. Money for visa, ticket, everything." Esther blinked, her mind racing. She had never imagined Collins leaving. But looking at his face, full of hope and desperation, she knew what her answer would be, even before he finished talking. "Yes," she said softly. "If that's what you want, I'll help you." Collins was shocked. He didn't expect her to agree so quickly. "Are you serious?" She smiled through her uncertainty. "Of course. You've always had big dreams. I'll support you, always." That night, as they lay together, Collins wrapped her in his arms. He whispered promises. How he would return rich. How he would marry her. How they would live in a mansion together. "You'll be the queen of my empire," he said. The next morning, he made love to her with unusual passion. 2 weeks later, Esther missed her period. She took a test. Positive. She stared at the result in her palm, her heart full. This must be his way of assuring me, she thought. A child. A promise. She believed in him even more. The news of her pregnancy came like morning sunlight, unexpected, bright, and full of hope. Esther held the test strip in her hand and pressed it to her chest, smiling softly as tears welled in her eyes. It wasn't fear she felt. It wasn't even confusion. It was warmth, a sense of purpose, a sign. This is our baby, she whispered to herself. His baby. That evening, she told Collins. At first, he was stunned into silence. Then, slowly, he smiled, a boyish grin that warmed her heart. Wow, I didn't plan it, he said, placing his hand gently on her belly. But it feels right. Esther nodded. I'll keep the baby. It's ours. It's a part of our love. Collins became even more determined to travel. Now I have 2 people to work for, he said. I must go and build something for us. I must. In the following weeks, Esther worked tirelessly to arrange everything for Collins's trip. She liquidated one of her salon accounts, met agents, secured his visa, and bought his flight ticket. She rented a furnished apartment abroad for his first month and filled his luggage with clothes, gadgets, foodstuff, and love letters. Every night, they sat together dreaming of the future, of a life where their child would grow in abundance and not lack anything. As the weeks flew by, her bump began to show. Her staff and close friends noticed, but she dismissed their concerns with a gentle wave. I'm fine. He's going to be back soon. He promised. The day Collins left, she stood at the airport holding back tears. He hugged her tightly, touched her belly one last time, and whispered, "Wait for me. I'll make you proud." She watched his plane disappear into the clouds. "I believe in you," she whispered again. But clouds often hide more than just planes. Sometimes, they hide the beginning of sorrow. With Collins gone, Esther poured herself into her salon and her pregnancy. The shop grew busier than ever. Word of her skill spread beyond town, and social media influencers began tagging her salon in beauty posts. Customers doubled, then tripled. Esther expanded, hired 5 more stylists, repainted the building, and even opened a second branch on the island. From the outside, she was the perfect picture of a woman who had it all: wealth, strength, independence. But every night, as she lay on her bed, she would hold her phone and stare at Collins' messages, rereading old chats and voice notes. He had settled in Europe and was struggling, but he called often. Sometimes twice a day. "Baby, I just need more time. It's hard here," he would say. "I understand," Esther always replied. "Just stay focused. I'm holding things down here." Her pregnancy was tough. Morning sickness, swollen feet, back pain, yet she never missed a day at work. Her staff marveled at her. She laughed through contractions, handled accounts while groaning in pain, and managed client schedules even while wiping sweat from her forehead. No one saw her cry, not even once. When her water finally broke, she was alone in her apartment. She took herself to the hospital, delivered a baby boy after a long labor, and held him to her chest, whispering through exhausted tears, "You're the reason I keep going." She sent Collins photos. He replied days later, overwhelmed. "He looks like me," he wrote. "I'll come home soon." But soon became months. Months became a year. And Esther, though tired, never stopped believing. She gave the boy his father's surname, Jason Collins. The boy grew, and with him, so did her hope. But hope can be deceptive, like perfume on a wound. It smells sweet, but the pain is still there. Jason was growing fast, chubby cheeks, curious eyes, and a laugh that could melt the coldest heart. He had his father's dimples and his mother's calm spirit. Esther would often sit beside his crib, watching him sleep, whispering stories about his father. "Your daddy is coming back one day," she'd say, stroking his tiny fingers. He promised. Collins still called, though less frequently now. Sometimes he didn't pick up for days. Other times, his messages were hurried, dry, and full of excuses. "Work is hectic. My line wasn't going through. I'm still sorting papers." Esther clung to each word like a lifeline. She never argued, never questioned. She always replied kindly, always sent pictures of Jason's first steps, his birthday cake, his hospital checkups. She carried the relationship alone, keeping the rope tight even when he seemed to let go. Her salon continued to flourish. She became a mentor to other women in business, even winning an award for Entrepreneur of the Year. Cameras flashed, people clapped, but her heart felt empty. Every win felt incomplete. Collins wasn't there to see it. Or maybe he just didn't care anymore. One Sunday evening, she called him with Jason beside her. Jason had just learned to say, "Daddy." "Say it again, baby," she urged, her eyes bright with pride. "Daddy." Jason giggled into the phone. There was silence on the other end. Then a slow chuckle. "He sounds grown," Collins said flatly. Esther paused. Something in his tone pierced her. No warmth, no joy. "Yes," she said, forcing a smile. "He's waiting for you." That night, for the first time, she cried in the shower. Not because he hadn't come home, but because deep down, she feared he never would. The promises Collins once made had become whispers, light as wind, impossible to hold. Time marched on, dragging silence with it. Jason was now 3, curious, smart, and always asking questions about a man he had never met. "Mummy, where is Daddy? Why doesn't he come to pick me from school? Does he love me?" Esther always had to gather her breath before answering. "Daddy is working far away, baby. He loves you very much. He's just busy." But deep inside, her heart ached. The calls from Collins had grown cold. Now it was her doing all the reaching out. She would send messages and get a thumbs up emoji in return. Sometimes, nothing at all. His social media showed a different story. He was doing well, very well. Flashy cars, champagne nights, endless photos with rich friends in big houses. He had changed his profile picture, him in a designer suit, flanked by 2 white men in front of what looked like a new business. No trace of Esther, no mention of Jason. Her friends began to whisper. Some were blunt. "Esther, that man is gone. You're raising a child alone. Move on." But Esther wasn't ready. Her heart wasn't trained for abandonment. She still clung to the memory of the man who once promised forever while touching her pregnant belly. She remembered his words too clearly to believe he meant to leave her behind. One afternoon, she sent Collins a long message. "I'm proud of you. I see you've made it. I always knew you would. Jason and I are doing well too. He misses you. I hope one day you'll remember the love that built your journey. Take care." There was no reply, no scene, no blue tick. That night, she didn't cry. She sat in Jason's room, watching him sleep. Her heart beat with quiet pain. She whispered to the darkness, "Maybe loving you was my mistake. But being his mother, that was God's gift." It was a calm Tuesday morning when the news came. A whisper at first, then a roar. Collins is back in town. Esther was in the middle of styling a bride's hair when her receptionist rushed into the salon with wide eyes. Madam Esther, it's him. Collins. He came back yesterday. People saw him at Le Méridien Hotel. He came with 2 black jeeps, security men, and a whole entourage." Esther's hands froze mid-braid. The world around her slowed. Her heart thudded like a warning bell in her chest. "He's back?" she asked softly, blinking. "Yes, Ma. And everyone's talking about how rich he is now. He has investments everywhere. They say he's opening a tech company in Lagos and buying properties like water." Esther forced a smile and continued braiding. "Okay, thank you. Let me finish this hair." But inside, her world was crumbling. He was back, and he hadn't called her. No message, no visit, not even to see his son. That evening, she sat quietly on her bed, watching Jason play with toy cars. Her heart was heavy, her throat tight. What was she expecting? A reunion? A tearful apology? A hug and a whispered, "I missed you, Esther. I came back for you." She stared at her phone. No missed calls. No new chats. The man who had once laid in her arms, fed from her hands, slept under her roof, was now parading town like a stranger. A rich, unreachable stranger. Still, she didn't cry. Not yet. She held her son close that night, kissed his forehead, and whispered, "We're going to be okay. With or without him." But deep within, a storm was brewing, one that even she didn't see coming. Days passed. Then weeks. Collins remained in town, yet there was no knock on Esther's door, no call, not even a passing text. People talked. Loudly, carelessly. "Have you seen his new mansion in Lekki? That house is like a palace. I heard he's dating that light-skinned model that sings on TikTok. He's throwing a huge party next weekend. Politicians will be there." Esther heard it all. Every word, every rumor. But what cut deepest was the silence that sat like a stone between them. A silence that screamed louder than any insult. Jason, now 4, started asking new questions. "Mummy, are you sure Daddy is in town?" "Yes, baby," she would say, forcing a smile. "But Daddy is very busy." She tried once, just once, to reach him. She called his number late at night when the salon was closed and Jason had fallen asleep. He didn't pick. She sent a message. "I heard you're back. Jason would love to see you. Just for a few minutes." No pressure. He read it. No reply. 2 days later, she dressed up, put on makeup that didn't hide the pain, and took Jason to the address she heard he now lived in. It was a mansion. Black gates. Armed guards. "I'm here to see Mr. Collins," she told the security man. "Do you have an appointment?" he asked, raising a brow. She blinked. "No, I'm Esther, the mother of his son." The man frowned. He left instructions. No uninvited guests. Especially women with children. Esther's heart shattered like glass. She bent down, took Jason's hand, and whispered, "Come on, let's go." As they walked away, Jason looked up at her. "Is Daddy hiding from us?" She nodded, swallowing tears. "Yes. But one day, he'll remember who helped him rise." That night, Esther didn't sleep. She stared at her ceiling, clutching Jason's teddy bear. Love, when betrayed, doesn't just break. It rots. Esther's pain no longer screamed. It simmered, quiet, sharp, and heavy like a stone in her chest. After the visit to Colin's mansion, something inside her shifted. She didn't cry, not in public. But her eyes lost their sparkle. Her laughter thinned. Her strength remained, but her soul began to bleed in silence. At the salon, she kept her chin up. She smiled with customers, cracked jokes with staff, gave business talks to young women who admired her. Yet none of them saw the weight she carried beneath her perfume and lip gloss. The weight of being forgotten. One evening, after a long day at the salon, she sat alone in the break room. Everyone had gone. Her phone buzzed. A notification from Instagram. Collins had posted a photo. Him on a yacht, holding a glass of wine, with the caption, "From struggle to strength." Loyalty is earned, not given. She stared at it, her throat tightening. Loyalty is earned? Hadn't she been loyal? Hadn't she built him, fed him, clothed him, lifted him? She remembered the nights she stayed up sending him money, when she had to sell her jewelry to complete his visa payment. She remembered how she skipped meals just to pay his rent while pregnant with his child. But now, he was a king in his own eyes, and she, a shadow in his past. Her phone buzzed again. A friend sent a message. "Esther, have you heard? Collins is getting married. Next month. Big wedding. Invite only." She dropped the phone. Everything went quiet. She stood up, walked to the mirror, and stared at herself. She was still beautiful, still elegant, still strong. But in that moment, her silence became something else. A seed. A decision. If love had become cruelty, then pain would no longer be weakness. It would become purpose. The invitation came on a bright, cold morning. A thick, cream-colored envelope sealed with gold foil and embossed with elegant letters. Esther's assistant handed it to her quietly. "Madam Esther, this just arrived for you." Esther's hands trembled as she broke the seal. Inside was a sleek card. "You are cordially invited to the wedding of Collins and Amara. Date, the 25th of December. Venue, Grand Hall, Lagos. Time, 4 p.m. She stared at the card, her breath catching. Collins, the man who had promised forever and then vanished. The man who had left her to raise their son alone. The man who was now marrying another woman. Her heart throbbed, not with anger, but with a strange, heavy sadness. But there was something else too, a fierce flame igniting inside her. The same flame that had built her empire, that had given her strength when all seemed lost. She folded the card carefully, slipped it into her purse, and stood up. "We'll make sure the salon stays open that day," she said softly to her assistant, "but I want every security detail ready." "I'll be there." Her assistant looked surprised. "Madam, are you sure?" Esther smiled, a smile that did not reach her eyes. "I promised to support him on his wedding day. That promise still stands." That night, Esther sat beside Jason, holding his small hand tightly. He asked, "Will Daddy be there, Mummy?" "Yes, baby. He will." She kissed his forehead and whispered, "And we'll be ready." As she stared out the window into the night, Esther knew one thing for certain. This wedding would change everything. The days leading to Collins's wedding were tense but outwardly calm. Esther's salon continued to thrive, her clients oblivious to the storm gathering beneath her composed exterior. Every night, she met secretly with the security men she had hired. Strangers paid handsomely to follow her orders without questions. She rehearsed every detail, the exact moment to act, the escape routes, the timing. It wasn't just about revenge anymore, it was about reclaiming her dignity. Collins had shattered her trust, humiliated her, and left her to raise their son alone. But Esther was no longer a broken woman. She was a force. Her friends noticed a new hardness in her gaze. One whispered, "Is this about Collins?" Esther smiled faintly. "It's about justice." At home, she tucked Jason in bed, kissing his forehead softly. "Mummy promises, everything will be okay." Jason smiled innocently, unaware of the storm ahead. The morning of the wedding dawned bright and warm. The grand hall was buzzing with excitement. Guests in glittering dresses and sharp suits, photographers snapping candid moments, laughter filling every corner. Esther arrived quietly, dressed in a stunning, understated gown. She held Jason's hand firmly, feeling the weight of her promise on her shoulders. Collins caught sight of her immediately, his face flickering with surprise, then cold recognition. "Esther," he said stiffly, "you came." She nodded, voice steady. "I promised to support you." Collins's smile was thin, almost mocking. "Thank you." Her heart clenched, but she stood tall. She knew this was more than a wedding. This was her moment to take back what was hers. The ceremony was beautiful. Collins and Amara exchanged vows amid cheers and applause. But Esther's eyes never left Collins. She noticed his confident smirk, the way he seemed to own the room. Just as Collins said, "I take you as my wife," the lead security officer raised his gun. Shots echoed sharply through the hall. Screams erupted. People scattered in panic. Collins and Amara fell to the floor, blood staining the pristine white carpet. Esther grabbed Jason, rushing him to the waiting car where the other guards opened the gates. They sped away as chaos reigned behind them. Her hands trembled. This was the end of one chapter, and the terrifying beginning of another. The airport was cold and unforgiving. Esther clutched Jason's hand tightly, pushing through crowds with a quiet urgency. She ignored calls and texts flooding her phone. This was her escape, her fresh start. On the plane, she held Jason close, whispering soothing words, even as her mind raced. She had crossed a line she never thought she would, but for her son, she would do anything. The city she had built was miles behind her now. Ahead was uncertainty, but also hope. Abroad, Esther found a small apartment in a bustling city far from Lagos. The streets were different, the faces unfamiliar. She missed her home, her family, but there was safety here. She enrolled Jason in school, working tirelessly to keep the bills paid. Her hands became skilled at hairstyling for modest clients, and slowly, she rebuilt a small but loyal customer base. Every night, she prayed silently for strength. The wounds of betrayal were deep, but the bond with her son was stronger. Here, in this foreign place, she vowed to create a new life, one where neither Collins nor his betrayal could reach them. Despite her efforts, Esther was haunted by memories. She saw Collins's face in every crowd, heard his voice in quiet moments. The pain was sharpest when Jason asked about his father. "Will Daddy come back, Mummy?" She swallowed the lump in her throat. "Maybe, baby, but no matter what, I will always be here for you." The loneliness was sometimes overwhelming, but she clung to her hope. She was not just a woman betrayed. She was a mother, a fighter, a survivor. Slowly, Esther's heart began to heal. She made new friends, joined community groups, and shared pieces of her story with those who listened with kindness. Jason thrived, his laughter filling their small home with light. She learned to smile again, to dream again. The past still lurked like a shadow, but it no longer controlled her. Esther was reclaiming her life, piece by piece. One afternoon, a letter arrived from Nigeria. It was from her trusted assistant at the salon. "Madam Esther, the salon is doing well. Everyone asks about you and Jason. Your legacy is strong." Tears blurred Esther's vision. The life she had left behind was still alive, still thriving because of her hard work. The letter was a bittersweet reminder of all she had sacrificed, and all she had gained. Esther stood at her apartment window one evening, gazing at the city lights. She thought of the woman she once was, young, hopeful, trusting. She was still that woman, but now tempered by experience and strength. She was no longer waiting for Collins or his approval. She was whole, strong, and free. Her silence was no longer pain, it was power. Years later, Esther returned to Nigeria, not as a broken woman, but as a queen. Her salon was bigger, her reputation untouchable. Jason, now a confident young boy, walked proudly beside her. She had forgiven, not Collins, but herself. Her story was no longer about betrayal. It was about resilience, love, and new beginnings. And this time, the future was hers. True love is built on trust and respect, not just gifts or promises. Wealth and status cannot replace loyalty and honesty. When betrayal strikes, strength and self-worth become the greatest power to reclaim your life and dignity. Thank you so much for watching to the end. Guess what? I am cooking something really great that you wouldn't want to miss. So subscribe now and join our family. Give this video a thumbs up and share to your family and friends. See you soon.